crap. Good afternoon, friends. I'd like to welcome you back to What's in Tegan's Storage Locker. It's the show that dares to ask the question, just what is in my storage locker? The answer today, as most days, is comic books. I have a storage locker filled with lots of disorganized comic books. I grab a fistful and we, talk about them on the air here. Hopefully it's entertaining for you, at least. Well, there's a little black cat who likes to play the spoiler. I just, spent a good 15 minutes chasing and getting chased around the house by him. And I don't know, maybe it did something to exhaust him. We're going to find out. Chances are he will still careen through the filming here at some point. I've learned there's very little I can do when he really wants to be disruptive. All right, so right on top of the pile here, we got an issue of Uncle Scrooge Adventures from June 1989. This is towards the tail end of Gladstone's first tenure with the Disney Comics license. They got a brand new Don Rosa cover here on the Carl Barks adventure story, the 24-karat moon from 1958. Let's look at the letters page here. Like I say, they published weird letters sometimes. Like there's this one, looks like this graduate student studying philosophy at Rice University. Recently, while studying Plato's Republic, I noticed something which might interest your readers. So this guy goes on this long tangent about Plato, and how Plato's theory, I don't know whether or not Barks read Plato. He seems, however, to intuitively recognize the sort of distinction made by Plato, and this may partly explain why the team of Scrooge, Donald, Huey, Dewey, and Louie work so well together. However, while Plato thought the rational part of the soul should rule the group, Barks turns things upside down by having Scrooge's desires rule, leading the ducks into all their adventures. Well, that's fun right there. And you can tell this is from the later period of Barks's career, even if you didn't know that the longer Scrooge Adventures were from the last portion of his career. You can always tell from what era of Barks you're looking at, because the later era is going to have much blockier, squared off lettering compared to the very loose, almost freehand lettering of the early career stuff. So basically they find another moon behind the regular moon, and it's made of 24-karat solid gold. So of course, even though he knows, I'm sure, that that's going to destroy the world economy in one fell swoop, he needs to get up there. So it's a race. All these other characters want a piece of that as well. The Raja of Eyesore, because of course Barks liked his Middle Eastern stereotypes. There's a cattle tycoon, and of course the terrible Beagle Boys. Now I gotta say, if the Beagle Boys make it to space before the United States, that's on us, frankly. There's some mean-looking mouse characters selling rocket plans. There's their rocket with, they fill it full of blast-off powder, so solid rocket fuel. Donald doesn't want to get on the ship, so he chains him to the control seat. If you must keep your feet on good old earth, set him in this, and it's just a box of dirt. Very, very Uncle Scrooge solution there. Roar. The Beagle Boy ship is painted like a shark. Come on, you. You're not going to disrupt us this time. We're going to make it through this video. There's nothing you can do about it. Well, we'll see about that, I guess. Yeah, you can just sit up there and join me without disrupting things. That's allowed. So there's, you know, all sorts of hijinks with these rockets flying into space. But see, Scrooge is cheating. He's making a big bilious cloud of black smoke to make the Raja turn back. You underhead and sky pirate, that's fighting dirty. And you can order your back issues. Oh, man. Nice prices for vintage Gladstone. There's only one way to keep up with these guys. Subscribe to Walt Disney Comics. You can get a year's worth of Donald Duck for $11 whole. Can't beat that with a stick. Oh, wow, and they're just going at it. The Beagle Boys are trying to ram them. Dogfight, rocket battle in the sky. The Beagle Boys, the terrible Beagle Boys. So, they demolished the Raja's rocket. One down. Dear Scrooge's rocket is next to go. They're being naughty. They're painting these. They're painting the asteroids with gold paint, and they're tricking the Beagle Boys. Phooey on that 24-karat moon. We got our fortunes made. Your trick worked. It got the Beagle Boys off our trail. Oh, but there's still this Texas guy. He's flying in this ship that's got horns like a cattle. Oh, that's clever. They stopped to weld these asteroids into the shape of cows. So they tricked this guy into stopping for the golden cows. He fell for the gag, hook, line, and the lasso rope. So it's just them left to hit the 24-karat moon. Must be 500 miles in diameter. That would be that much gold in dollars would be 277 untouchabatillion, 606 uncomprehendibillions, 288 fantastic cotillions. Never mind spelling it out. Grab one of those brake valves and start slowing us. Oh, but they find they land and they realize there's already a guy there with the crown on his head. Just a minute, sonny boy, you're talking about my property. I happen to be the owner of this moon, and I've been owner since 700 years before you were born. I'm Muchkale, who was once the richest man on Venus. I came here like you to get my hands on this gold. On this airless moon, voices do not make sounds, only thoughts to move from one speaker to another. So he's been marooned here for 8 centuries. I'd pay well to get back home. So he offers to buy the moon, or to make a deal with Scrooge to sell the moon for a trip back home. I've lived here ever since, eating nothing, drinking nothing, growing not a day older in all these centuries. So it's a magic moon. My goodness, what I wouldn't give for a dish of boiled skunk cabbage. On Venus, skunk cabbage is the supreme dish of the most elegant gourmets. And that's Carl Barks' humor, if ever there was one. This gov is in no position to drive a hard bargain. I can afford to haggle a little. All he wants is a handful of dirt. And it just so happens he has a handful of dirt because Scrooge filled the box with dirt for Donald to put it in his hands. And he puts it into his magnetic attractor, turns that into a tiny bit of turns that tiny bit of Earth into a new planet with little tiny skunk cabbages on it. And then he goes off and lives on that big world with everything he wants on it. He gets his own planet. And see, the story ends with Scrooge in possession of this giant moon of gold. Now, if there were another 5 pages to the story, we'd see him going back to Earth with all that gold and then, getting arrested and having an audience with the president who would tell him to, lose all the gold because you're going to break the world economy. But, we don't get that. All right, the second strip, there's a shorter story here by the Gutenbergist group, who was a foreign group, scripted by Jeffrey Bloom. So I guess that's who translated it. Lots more, duck stories being made in foreign climes than America at this point in time, because, as I think I mentioned before, the Disney comics have always been much more popular everywhere else besides the United States, at least since, the end of Del 4 Color, so to speak. Oh, the Mickey Mouse in color. I never had. I wanted to get this, but I was only a kid. It has a bunch of the Floyd Gottfredson strips, but it also has all of the Mickey Mouse work that Carl Barks did. He has only Mickey Mouse comic book story, a bunch of 32 pages of color storyboards by Barks for an unproduced cartoon. Ah, man, I've never seen that. See, I still really want a copy of that book. Fantagraphics needs to do a reissue of the stuff that's in there. Bonus picture disc record. Bound into all copies of the deluxe edition of Mickey Mouse in Color is a unique 7-inch record, numbered to match each book. It contains an excerpt of a conversation with Floyd Gottfredson and Carl Barks, presided over by Bruce Hamilton, in which the two creators reveal interesting facts about their favorite stories. And that's who was the president and publisher at Gladstone. So, yeah, to a way of speaking, the Gladstone books were definitely a labor of love from, the fans. And that gave them their slightly fusty, scholarly bent. I dearly love Gladstone so much. So they're going back in time with Gyro Gearloose, and he's got a time sphere just like the Legion of Superheroes did. The Bullfrog, with backup lithium lifters and Freon Ramjet overdrive generators. So they go back in time to days of the Pharaoh and end up getting enslaved to work on one of the Pharaoh's galleons. And they fight Nile River crocodile. This is fun. I think I probably would have read the backup story once and, reread the Barks story many, many times. What are they doing? They're looking for something or other that has to do with the plot that I wasn't paying attention to. And here's what else was on sale this month? This month's highlight included Gottfredson Serial from 1941, 12 rare Al Taliaferro strips, a classic Uncle Scrooge adventure by Barks, and a new duck story from the pen of William Van Horn. See, I've said before, Gladstone was high church. And this is what I mean by that, because instead of ads for candy, you get long text pages about 50, 60-year-old Donald Duck and Uncle Scrooge stories. Our cover story for Donald Duck 271 teams Carl Barks and Al Taliaferro. While these men never actually collaborated, their separate efforts on this case fit so neatly together we felt justified in joining them 50 years after the fact. So it's, I think, two golf-oriented stories. Okay. Oh, and here's a little, all right. Readers who will remember the Golden River from issue number 4. Readers who remember the Golden River from issue number 4 will recognize similar motifs in the 24-Karat Moon, a story Barks wrote barely 2 months later in 1958. This time, the object of Scrooge's money lust is a whole planet, but Barks's point is the same. Instead of a natural river or a living, breathing world, Scrooge is pursuing barren metal. Following the preliminary shenanigans with the Beagle Boys, the story adopts the tight, direct approach of fairy tales to show what would happen if Scrooge were taken at his word that he can live on nothing but gold. The Venusian tycoon Muchkale has had to do just that for 700 years and has found the prospect deathly. Only when the nephew is provided with a handful of ordinary dirt from which to create new life and indeed a whole new planet does he consider himself truly rich. Scrooge is left with the deed to the fabulous, useless golden moon, and with the realization that for once he's come out second in a land deal. All right, there's an ad for the Mickey Mouse in color. And they have 2 versions. There's the deluxe and then the popular priced edition for the peons. Oh, and they had a quote from Gene Shalit. What do we got next here? We got, oh, this looks like it might be fun. How about the Justice Society of America 100-page Super Spectacular? Now, this was from an initiative from the early part of the 2000s where DC decided that they were going to go back and do, just for funsies, they were going to do a new series of the 100-page Super Spectaculars, which were really popular in the 70s, still really popular with collectors, for a bunch of characters that never got them the first time around. So they did one for the Justice Society. They did another for Captain Marvel family. I think they did another for the Teen Titans. I didn't get them all, but the ones that I did get, it's basically just 100 pages of reprints. So you open it up. From the DC Vault, Justice Society of America 100-page Super Spectacular #1, the 1975 issue. Comic books haven't always been 32-page magazines. During the golden age of comics, most issues were 64 pages in length before shrinking to 52, then 48, and finally to the current standard of 32 pages. Beginning in the 1960s, DC Comics regularly published the fondly remembered 80-page Giants, a format that lasted until 1971. But as if to outdo itself, DC that very same year introduced yet another oversized format, the 100-page Super Spectacular. These mammoth compilations were everything their name implied and proved so popular that in 1974 DC began to publish many of their ongoing titles in the format, featuring a lead story of new material backed up by reprints that spanned the company's rich and varied publishing history. Circumstances soon forced DC to scale back these 100-page efforts. But what if there had existed one last Super Spectacular featuring DC's original superhero team, the Justice Society of America, a lost issue that had never seen print? So, you get to see, it's basically just a book of, well, how much? Oh, this was only $7 at the time, $6.95. So you get to see a whole supersized book of Silver and Golden Age reprints. So you got here a reprint of The Flash from, let's see, does it say? Vengeance of the Immortal Villain. That was written by John Broome, art by Carmine Infantino and Joe Giella. So that was, oh, it says down here, Flash 137. And this was an early team-up between the Flash of Two Worlds, Barry Allen and Jay Garrick, with Vandal Savage. And Vandal Savage, I believe it appeared, I want to say he was a Golden Age supervillain. Yeah, Vandal Savage is an inhabitant of another Earth existing in a different vibratory universe than ours. But when Vandal Savage makes his latest attack on the other Earth, we feel its impact here on our Earth. Now, if you want to know more about the multiple Earths, you can go and check out the Crisis on Infinite Earths videos that I put up the last 12 weeks on my a TikTok channel. I did the whole series. So this is classic. Oh yeah, and here's a issue of All-Star Comics with Vandal Savage on the cover. Yeah, I forgot that. He was a member of the Injustice Society back in the day. There's a whole, team of evil supervillains to counter the Justice Society. I love the Justice Society. I had a bunch of the Justice Society archives that, if you want to, I think I've mentioned before, if you want a good sampler of, the best that the Golden Age could do, at least for, the DC superheroes, you could do a lot worse with checking out some of the Justice Society adventures, because it was an anthology title. They didn't work together. They had separate stories published under the same rubric of the Justice Society. So every issue would have, stories, usually by the character's regular creative team. So you get to see a wide swath of different creators from the Golden Age. Oh, and there's Barry and Jay hanging out. They're doing something or other, and a cube, some sort, forming around me, holding me rigid. So Barry has to save Jay, who's stuck in a transparent cube, racing around to well, more like a box. At such speed, my hand equals the battering power of a dozen pile drivers. Yeah, that'll probably hurt your hand. He has to fall from a great height without holding a unconscious Jay Garrick there. So he has to create a buffer of air. Oh, and there's our boy, Vandal Savage, smoking a cigarette like a European, so you know he's evil. He's already got all the Justice Society locked up there. I love his hair. What product is he using? What sort of prehistoric product does Vandal Savage use? Oh, here's his origin. He was a Cro-Magnon who found a magic meteor that made him immortal. Later on, that origin would be tied in with the Immortal Man, who was a later character. Despite his new uniform, I recognize him. It's Vandal Savage, the immortal villain. This is a nice-looking book, I have to say. You can't beat that team. Is that Carmen Infantino and Joe Giella? Giella? Yeah. And see, it's just all these cliffhangers. He's getting dragged behind a ship. How is he going to get out of that? Oh, and Jay's being dragged underground. See, it's just, them having to outwit... and he's controlling their wills to make them fight each other. Oh, so that you get to see the dudes fighting. Because they didn't have the cover reprinted in here, but the cover features them wailing on each other, if I recall correctly. I'll put it on the screen now so you can see what I'm talking about. And it looks like he's gonna get Vandal Savage, but Vandal Savage is in another of those indestructible cubes. But they freed the rest of the Justice Society. And it's all downhill from there. Might be a good idea for us to meet every so often. Come out of retirement, as it were, to prevent anything like this happening again. I'm in favor of it. Me too. Yeah, so this was right at the beginning of the 60s when the Justice Society characters were just sort of starting to come back into the spotlight. That led to Starman and Black Canary, guest star Wildcat. Who did that? That's Gardner Fox, art by Murphy Anderson. And there's Sportsmaster and, oh, the villainous Huntress from the Golden Age. This guy's, the whole gimmick was that he was a sportsman, so all of his crimes were sport-oriented. Doing something or other. Black Canary decides it's time to have something to do with that. And there's our boy Ted Knight. You know, if you grew up reading the 90s Starman, you know him because he was a big part of that series, Jack Knight's father. He had passed on the Starman mantle by then. But there's him in his red and green with the gold star. Oh, the Huntress is calling, I guess, falcons to fight Starman. I tweet, tweet, craw, craw. I guess those are supposed to be bird noises. Oh, and he's throwing a ski. He's throwing a ski at Starman. That's no fair. Starman ski slammed. How'd he get tangled with the Sportsmaster? I think the Sportsmaster was more of a Green Lantern foe. Like a Maynard of ancient times, the blonde bombshell flings herself through the air. Well, see, I could have told you, walking around with only one ski on, without any snow on the ground, you're going to get in trouble. Uh-oh. Nobody can do that to my husband, Black Canary, especially you. Uh-oh. Oh, so they're fighting. Oh, she fell head first into a tree. That looks like an actual serious concussion. Thump. Oh, and they're making their getaway on a cigarette boat. How is it that she should not have gotten up so easily from thumping her head on a tree? Oh, wow, Wildcat gets to fight a kangaroo. Now, that's something you don't see in comic books anymore. You can't beat that. Wildcat getting into a fist fight with a kangaroo. And Black Canary fighting a gorilla. Starman fighting well, not a Black Panther. Not the Black Panther, a Black Panther. Punching a polar bear. Now, how is that? She's not strong enough to lift a gorilla. The shoulder toss is based on the theory of the greatest energy with the least effort. So it's a jiu-jitsu flip, but I don't think that she's strong enough to do that, but that's just me. I know, it's comics. They're just hanging out. Oh, they've just been knocking these golfers out with golf balls. Oh, they're after this prize golf bag filled with $100,000 in cash. Oh, that's a demented-looking Wildcat. He's been drinking a lot of coffee. Showdown on the golf course. They're brawling each other here. See, as the 60s wore on, eventually they started doing stories that weren't team-ups, but were actual just new stories set on Earth, too. This was I want to say this was a showcase, an issue of Showcase. The next one was a Golden Age Flash story. Finale for a Fiddler, written by Bob Conager, art by Murphy Anderson, again. Separated from our Earth by a cosmic curtain impenetrable to any eye as a parallel Earth. There he is. Oh, Turtle Man's hoods are using him for cover. Slugs almost singed me. Can't seem to vibrate with my old-time finesse. See there, he's getting old. But not old enough to take care of the Turtles gang. Can't understand what's happening to me, Joan. I think he's suffering from low T. It's happening to everyone, honey. Time's marching over you. But I like you just the way you are. The gray at your temples is groovy. Makes you look distinguished. Oh, and Joan's going to drag him to the rock festival. He's still groovy and with it. Can't beat that. These over 30s are sticking their neurotic noses everywhere, trying to steal our thing when they should be in rocking chairs. Oh, man, it's the whole... See, these are the boomers. The boomers are the ones who were complaining about what is that generation? Older than the silent generation, the greatest generation, the World War II generation. I guess that's what we still call them. The Fiddler, wonder what he's up to in his old age. Up to some sort of criminal shenanigans. Oh, he's using his magic fiddle to cause some kind of havoc. Happy crash landing, Flash. That wasn't that long. Let's see. A rare find from the golden age of comics. This exciting adventure of the blind crime fighter Dr. Midnight was written and penciled by a writer unknown to us in 1948, but never published. To bring this unexpected find to you, we had it inked by Sal Amendola, who will become better known, we hope, after you read this story. So who penciled this originally? This Dr. Midnight story. Written by unknown, art by unknown, inked by Sal Amendola. Really? Huh. It doesn't say who did it. I'm going to check and see, but if they didn't know who did it, I don't know if comics.org is going to know either. So the gimmick for Dr. Midnight was that he was a blind man, but he's got these not magic, but these scientifically whatever goggles that give him sight, but he can also see in the dark as well, and that gives him his advantage. That's basically his superpower. He can see in the dark, so of course he's fighting people in broad daylight. Good job. That's not how you ride a bike, Dr. Midnight. Pow. Ladies and gentlemen, this Echo flashlight is a vast improvement over cane tapping. The principle behind this device is similar to radar and sonar devices. The Echo flashlight sends forth a low sound beam. When the beam strikes an object, the reflected sound becomes louder and shriller. Apparently that's a real thing. It says here, but I don't think anyone ever used anything like that. Oh, the origin of Starman from, let's see here. The Origin of Starman, written by Julie Schwartz, with illustration by Jack Burnley. The Mystery of the Vanishing Detectives, written by John Broome, art by Frank Giacoa, Arthur Petty, and Bernard Sachs. So these are all, they didn't print any I don't think they printed any Golden Age adventures here. This is all the Silver Age versions that were Silver Age versions of the Justice Society. Oh, so you got four world-famous detectives en route to the International Detective Convention introduce themselves. So you got a Charlie Chan stand-in, Sherlock Holmes copy, Mustafa Hakim of Turkey, and Jacques Durand of the Paris Sûreté. So that's your, oh, God, I can't remember that guy. Poe's detective. I can't remember his name. I'm flashing it on the screen now. You know, I'm old. My memory's terrible. Let's see here. You know, there's your very dated Asian caricature. Nowadays, they put at least a little bit of a disclaimer, you know, about the. They didn't put a disclaimer on this one about the dated depictions in the book, and you know that's. So this would have been from Adventure Comics 418, I think. That's when that is. 1972, that would have been, according to the Indici at least. So, you know, that's still early enough that the rather questionable, objectionable depictions of other races were still making it into the books. You know, look at the earliest, well, not even the earliest, just about the entire run of Shang-Chi. You know, the coloring on that character. The people wrote in about that. You know, took a while for them to get better about this stuff. But it's not like people weren't complaining even back in the day. So they're doing something. I'm not following. These were so plot heavy, I'm not really paying that much attention. Oh, there's Dr. Midnight. He taking advantage of his ability to see in the dark. He had these these blackout bombs that he could throw and basically just blind everyone so he could punch them. Oh, that's a nice looking page. Who was this again? This was Frankie Gayakoa, Arthur Petty, and Bernard Sachs. See, this is kind of like an older Justice Society story with everyone sort of branching off to do their own thing. And that was the early Justice League stories did the same thing as well. But pretty soon they figured out, because I mean, if nothing else, the Avengers came along and, you know, they did all of their stories together. So everyone sort of breaking off to do their own thing this became very dated. There's Wonder Woman and Green Lanterns popping in. This does read like a Golden Age one. Oh, there's the Atom and Hawkman. The Hawkman back when he just had the face mask instead of the freaky bird mask. Gotta love that freaky bird mask. Man, I'm not following this plot at all. There's a lot. Wait a minute. 96? Oh, they're counting the covers. I see that. I see what they're doing there. Oh, that was fun. That took a minute to get through, but that's a fun example of... Oh, man, it did take a little bit to get through. We've looked through 2 comics. What next? What next? Well, now for something completely different. How about an issue of the Chris Claremont Fantastic Four? Now for something completely different. he had a fairly long run on this book, a good few years. Most of it, I think, with Salvador Larocca, who he later went on to do Extreme X-Men with. And they did another Extreme X-Men series together just last year. You know, I'm a Fantastic Four person. I tend to buy Fantastic Four in rain or shine. And month in and month out, Claremont's Fantastic Four could be a frustrating book. Because it was goofy as all heck. It really was, in places. He had a good handle on the characters. You can't say he didn't. But you know, they were very... they still read very much like latter-day Claremont. And if you know your latter-day Claremont, you know that... you know, they have an interesting texture to them, shall we say. Very wordy, a lot of plot going on. But man, it looks very nice. You can't say this is... I know there's some people who don't like later Larocca, especially since he, you know, works a lot with photo reference now. But, you know, I liked his work, and that's another thing in favor of the book. I quite liked, you know, the way he drew the characters. Now, one thing I'll say about this run of Fantastic Four, even if I didn't much care for it at the time, it has, in hindsight, was really influential. Claremont did a lot of things, a lot of new things that later on other people went back to. He was the first to give the Fantastic Four a teenage daughter, you know, which paved the way for Valeria. He did a Reed and Doom body switch story. What else? He did a number of things that were just similar to stuff that was picked up on later, is what I'm trying to say. Oh, another Captain Crunch ad. Who did that? That almost looks like Joe Sinnott. I don't know who would have done that at the time. What are you doing? All right, now before I was so rudely interrupted, I was looking at this Captain Crunch ad. It looks like someone familiar, but it's not signed, of course. Oh, the Captain Crunch is always getting lost. He was lost in the 80s. The Soggies got him, and Spider-Man had to save Captain Crunch. Yeah, he's switched bodies with Dr. Doom and Reed Richards, which is why I think everyone thinks the Fantastic Four have turned evil because they're, because suddenly they're hanging out with Dr. Doom. They don't know he's been switched. Oh, at least Ben's wearing a baseball cap, as was the fashion at the time, looks like. What are you doing? I have no idea what's going on here. It's very complicated with all sorts of, you know, supporting characters and what. Don't you dare. Dorma was back. Dorma was, I don't know if this was the same Dorma who died in the 60s or so. I don't remember. Submariner continuity is not my forte. I don't remember anything that was going on here. No, honey, get away from that. Of course, he has to start acting up towards the end of the recording. Usually he settles down, but he just, I guess, settled back up again. Oh, and they're the Avengers. Oh, the Avengers look good in the late 90s. This was the Heroes Return era with Justice and Firestar on the team. You know, one of the less awful later Iron Man annuals. Iron Man armors. Come back to the bullpen bulletins. No construct of technology is a fair match for one of the true ace here. I will strike again and again until yonder field of energy is finally breached. I just heard a scream in the distance. Someone is upset about Claremont Fantastic Four. They're fighting the Avengers about some sort of misunderstanding. Ad for the Kubert School with a list of alumni. Jim Balint, Steve Bissett, Kevin Altieri, Sergio Cariello, Amanda Connor, Gian Giassima, Tim Harkins, Carl Kiesel, Adam Kubert, Andy Kubert, Tom Mandrake, Bart Sears, Frank Turan. Frank Turan, I didn't realize he went to the Kubert School. Tim Truman, Rick Veitch, Brandon Vitti. Yeah, see, there's people here who with Hollywood credits. So they were able to parlay that into, I guess, storyboard work. Lee Weeks, although Spider-Man without the hyphen. Good job, Joe. What are you doing? Someone has the devil in him. Did you switch brains with Dr. Doom? Is that it? Oh, goodness. Yeah, so this status quo with Reed as Doom, I think that lasted for, I don't know, a good half year maybe. Oh, the big news is out. As most of you probably heard by now, Chris Claremont is returning to write the books that he helped make famous. X-Men and Uncanny X-Men. As comic book fans everywhere rejoice, the question arises, who will write the monthly adventures of Marvel's first family? Chris leaves some pretty big shoes to fill, but we found someone who's been a Fantastic Four fan since forever. Who was it who came in next? Was that the... So this would have been 2000. I don't think the Mark Waid run was quite yet. I don't think. Who was between? Who was between that? I'm not remembering. Was it Carl Kiesel? I don't remember. I'm flashing on the screen right now. So that's Chris Claremont, Salvador Larocca, R.T. Barron inks. That was Liquid on colors. Well, it was a nice-looking comic book, even if in hindsight it looks rather unintelligible. Come on! Without taking the time to sit down and go through the whole run again. My goodness, he has so much energy. He's not going to let me get through this last little bit of the video now, is he? What do we got? Oh, here's one. How about... Give me something interesting. Legends of the DC Universe number 15. This was part one of a Flash story written by Michael Jan Friedman and drawn by Richard Case. Richard Case, of course, you know that name from the Doom Patrol. He did a number of things. He did a lot of inking for Mike Waringo, and that was a very, very striking-looking team. But this is, I guess, just him on his own as artist. No inker listed. So, is this, which Flash is this? I'm guessing it looks like Barry Allen. I guess. We'll see. Because the gimmick of the Legends of the DC Universe is just like Legends of the Dark Knight, and that it was older stories, stories from the older continuity, from the stories from the first years of the character's continuity, as it were. So, you know, stories of the characters in their older incarnations. Young Batman, or I'm assuming this is Barry Allen, fighting Captain Cold here. Yeah, he's meeting Iris. And this is earlier in their relationship because they're still meeting for dates. There's an ad for another World's Finest series by... Come on. Can you just give me a break here, buddy? You're not gonna give me a break, are you? I think I've seen this ad before recently. It looks like an interesting looking series, at least. No idea what it's about from the ad, other than that it looks nice. And here's forensic scientist Barry Allen doing his business. There's Trickster doing up to his business. The Trickster, another charter member of my burgeoning Central City Rogues Gallery. Very nice looking work by Richard Case. Oh, this is fun. Some very classic looking Silver Age PVC figurines. $40. Chameleon Boy, Saturn Girl, Cosmic Boy, Colossal Boy, Brainiac 5, Lightning Lad, and Mon-El. There's your classic lineup for you. You know, I've always just never been a real Legion person. I dip in and out. One of these days, I really owe it to myself to do a solid read-through, but there's just, you know, so many decades. You know, I've read this and that and the other part, but very intimidating when, you know, looked at as a whole. There's significantly fewer Justice Society stories than Legion of Superheroes. Oh, there's that battle tank again that's spotlighting this woman's legs. The only thing that brightens your life more is the love of a child. I don't know what this is about. Sorry, Iris. I guess I've got a lot on my mind. Well, that's Barry Allen. That's Barry Allen for you, Mr. Absent-Minded. Oh, wow. Planetary #1. Now, this is a series. When did this book come out? This would have been April 99. So this came out probably like January or February 1999. Man, that ended up being a both popular and an influential series. Which is kind of funny because, you know, in the most, you know, forensic definition, it's strictly a series of one-shots with, you know, character pastiches in it. And yet, you know, it really ended up having a lot of influence. Certainly it put John Cassidy on everyone's radar. Nice action sequence there. Close the door, Alan. Bad enough you're always late. I've overlooked that, considering you do good work. The 7 or 8 minutes a day you're actually here. Oh, he's out pursuing a murder case that he's not supposed to be. Oh man, their subscription form is down to 10 books. Wow. Resurrection Man is one of them, though. That's a random assortment. No Batman or Superman titles except for the two of them. Interesting. So he's creeping around. He's finding someone who did some kind of murder. Oh, there's another murder. Oh, wow, Bob Kane. Bob Kane. That's a whole lot of words to say he was a schmuck. At this point, you know, no one's going to be upset about calling Bob Kane a schmuck. Probably some people out there saying it's a bit too nice. Schmuck is too good for him. Oh, and there got letters about the 80-page giant. I think we looked at that a few episodes ago. Letters page. Any names I recognize on here? J. Caleb Mazzacco. DJ Dayton. This was an ad for one of the Justice Society revival series. I think I mentioned, you know, as a Justice Society fan, I paid attention to these things. They didn't want to give the Justice Society their own book, and in fact, when the Justice Society had their own book in the early 90s, they ended up canceling it, not because it didn't sell, but because for some reason the company just didn't want to be selling Justice Society books. And then it wasn't until after the, you know, around, or not after, but around the turn of the century, they finally relented and gave the Justice Society their own book, which they couldn't sell until it was a spin-off of Starman that they had to do. But then, you know, it took off, and it ended up being one of the company's defining books of the 2000s. You know, that's, you know, the Black Adam movie took its plot from the first arc of, you know, one of the first arcs of the JSA book from, you know, I think started in '99. So fun. Oh, there's that Voltron I had again. So fun stuff. Is that? You know, I think we're going to come up just short of an hour, but you know, that's life. Sometimes sometimes the cat butts in and, you know, takes time, steals time from us. Only 4 issues this time around. Oh, well, you know, it happens sometimes. So, you know, stick around. We got plenty of videos on the channel at this point. I want to say this is probably video like 21. So there's 20 other videos to catch up on if you like what we're doing here. Check out my TikTok and Instagram. I post new video reviews there every single day. I'm actually coming up on, by the time you see this, I will probably have already passed my first anniversary, 1 year of doing daily videos for that format. I have a ball. I have a blast doing it, and I think my viewers do too. And I'm always looking to build viewership. So please, you know, check in on us. What else? I got a podcast, which you can check out. We're on Spotify now, as well as videos on YouTube. It's called Udder Madness. I do it with my friend Claire Napier. We look at Top Cow comics. So, you know, Mark Silvestri, Michael Turner, Witchblade, Cyberforce, The Darkness, all that fun stuff for your edification. There should be a card on the screen with the deets right now. What else? I'm on the Comics Journal website just about every week. Put up a new review. So, you know, you can catch me around. I've always got something on the back burner going. Anyway, please have a wonderful day. Take care of yourself. Be kind to those you meet. Be kind to children and small animals. And I'll see you next time.